of the Arnold Classic UK 2021, Mr. Ryan Terry.
Hi guys, Ryan Terry here, Arnold Classic champion UK 2021 and MyProtein athlete. Okay, so my Arnold Classic prep was an accumulation of 16 weeks of dieting, and in that 16 weeks I started with high amounts of calories, high amount of food, and as I progressed closer to stage I reduced my calories, reduced the amount of food I was eating, and increase my expenditure in training. So the final week of prep is what we all like to call peak week, and that is the most important part of prep. So it's finalizing those last minute touches and getting ready mentally and physically for stage. So 2 days out, I stop training. I do a final training session, which is called a depletion circuit. So it's hitting every muscle part, high volume, not very taxing. It's just about depleting every little bit of glycogen you have in your body and get ready for what we call like a carb up. So for 2 days out, you start to increase your carbs, you rest in your body, and you're essentially filling your muscles up with water. So then when you go on stage, you get that full 3D effect. You then also look at full body shaving, because obviously when you tan up, you need to show those cuts and stuff off, and if you've got a hairy chest, it's not going to show the definition like you need. And then we go on to tanning. So a day out from a show, you start to layer up your tan. So you give yourself 8 hours in between each layer, and I start Friday morning, you're on stage on the Saturday, and then you have Friday evening your second tan, and then Saturday morning you'd have your third tan. And Friday is basically the day before the show. It's all about getting yourself mentally right, knowing what you've done for the 16 weeks and what you have ahead of you the day after. And it's just preparing yourself for battle, essentially. The hard work is done, but you've just got to finish what you started off the day after. So resting up, making sure you're nice and calm, because if you're not and you get stressed, cortisol levels rise, which means you get water retention. So there's a lot of things you have to factor in. You have to look at your sodium levels as well, because if you've got too much salt in your diet and you're carbing up, which has water in there, you could spill over and look a bit soft. So there's a lot of factors you need to play with when you're going into show. And that's why when people say bodybuilding is a lifestyle, it really is, because you can't learn this thing overnight. You need to know your body. Year on, year out, you test different things, and it's just a learning curve every prep. I've been training for 20 years. I've been professional for like 10 of those. And every show I'm still learning my body, and it adapts as I get older. My metabolism changes. So the Arnold Classic prep has to be my favorite and the best look I took to stage, both physically and mentally. And that's something I'm hoping to mimic, obviously going into next year for the Olympia. So typically, I've only ever competed in America, which is very different to competing on home soil. So in America, you have to go out 5-6 days prior to stage because of the water retention on the long haul flights and getting yourself adjusted to the climate over there. But obviously on home soil, it was perfect for me. I could stay at home, prep all the way in, and like the day before, I would travel down to Birmingham to the NEC to get into my hotel to get settled. But essentially the work is done then. So again, it's about resting up. Obviously, it's important to get your 8, 9, 10 hours if possible sleep because you're fully rested for the next day, which is stage day. So the day of the competition, it's important to have been fully rested, so a nice sleep if you can. And then it's all about grazing your food in. So this isn't when you have set meal times and you have big portions. It's about just trying to keep fueled, not being too hungry, and just keep topped up whilst keeping your stomach as empty and tight as possible for stage. Also, there's no training on that day, because at the end of the day, the last 2 days have been about filling your muscle up, and if you train, you're just going to deplete them back down. So it's false economy. It's all about waiting till you're backstage to pump up, to get that finished look for when you step on stage. Typically you go backstage an hour before you're on stage, and it's all about, say, final touches. So you've got to get your glazing on, which you have We have Protan, I'm sponsored by Protan, which is a tanning company. They glaze you up, and it's all about putting fast-acting sugars in. Some people put sweets, donuts in, some people put dark chocolate, raisins. For me, that's typically what I do. I go for dark chocolate because there's no dairy in dark chocolate. It's very bitter, but it's instant into your bloodstream. It's just going to help with blood flow pumping up. And yeah, it's basically getting your mind right, focused for stepping on stage, because you've still got a job to do, and it's the most important job of your prep. So you typically get told to line up about 20 minutes before you're on stage, and that's where you're going to start your pumping up process. So people will be sipping on water because they'll be dehydrated over 24 hours. You start sipping on water and you start pumping up, putting the sugars in, and that's when you start to look at what your physique's going to look like. So there's mirrors, you have pumping bands. At the Olympia, you have your own gym, but at the Arnold UK, it was more pumping bands and dumbbells. And then, yeah, you get lined up and your heart is racing like mad. You're trying to keep calm. You've got all the other competitors probably in the same boat, looking very confident, and you've got to keep your game face on. And then, yeah, you step out on stage, and for me, I become someone else, like my alter ego. So I'm a very nervous competitor. I've never been like massively confident or that, but as soon as they call my name out and I step on stage, I turn into somebody else, and I think the hard work is done. You go and show them what you're made of, and that's when you get to battle. So, yeah, you step out in front of the crowd, and for me, the Arnold Classic UK was the most memorable time of my life. Actually, I've been on the Olympia stage 6 times now, and I've won the Arnold Classic in America, in Europe. But for me, stepping on the Arnold Classic UK stage and hearing that crowd erupt, it was unbelievable. And that meant more to me than winning the show, because I actually like froze when I came out. I like took a step back because obviously my family, friends, everyone was in the audience, but the crowd just erupted, and it was just an amazing feeling. It gave me that bit more confidence to go out and perform for them. So posing, a lot of people neglect, and it's one of the most important things as well, because your posing can determine whether you come first or last, because you can have the best physique on stage, but if you don't show it off in the right poses, in the right form, then you're going to drop places, and that is something I massively have done in the last few years. So I was a bit stuck in my ways, a bit like reluctant to change, because I was second in the world with this type of posing, but that was 5 years ago, and this prep I wanted to leave no stone unturned, and I wanted to know I'd done everything I can possible. So I decided to take on a posing coach this year. He's one of the most well-known guys in the industry, Omar Ventura, and he's an American coach, and he's basically, his athletes range from Mr. Olympia all the way to the top 10, and he's got a phenomenal resume. So I wanted him to put a posing routine together with what I wanted to do as well. So we worked together day in, day out, 4 weeks, 5:30 every morning for an hour posing practice, and we did 30 minutes every evening posing practice. And it was just trying to perfect the poses that best suited my physique, as well as hitting the criteria what the American judges and men's physique division want. And yeah, I'm really happy with that, really happy with what we took to the stage, and I can't wait to showcase that next year as well. So if you haven't competed before and you're thinking about stepping on stage, I think the most important thing is go and have a look at a local show. So go and see what category or what class you think you're going to fit best into, and go and watch what's winning that class. And then you've got to be your own worst critique and compare yourself to that physique. So look at how they're posing, look at their stage presence, look at their muscularity, their condition, and then compare yourself to it and see how far you are from that physique. Because at the end of the day, I'm a competitor at heart. I don't want to just turn up and be a number. I want to be a competitor and be that #1 spot. So do your research before, that way you can make an impact. And if you want to make it a career, what better way than stepping on stage the first time, done all your research, and walk out and win.